Finally, I looked for another guy that I know, and he jumped in. And between the two of us, we were able to save this girl's life. And so the girl was fighting me, man. I mean, I jumped in there to save her, but she was fighting me. So what should I have done? Well, since you're fighting, forget it then. Go on, drown. I could have left her there. No. It's the same fight that we're having for our children. It doesn't matter if they fight you. It doesn't matter what. You stand to your guns, stick to your guns, and do what you know is right. Now, the problem we have is what it is that we're trying. Do we know what's right? Because a lot of us are suffering from issues that we got from the environments that we came up in. So sometimes it's very difficult even to realize you're making a wrong decision because this is all that you know. Now you can for example, you can tell a child, or a young person, don't have premarital sex because you might get pregnant. But then this child you're talking to is a result of premarital sex. Their parents weren't married. So in order for this child how can this child really grasp that premarital sex is wrong when their very existence is based on the fact that someone had premarital sex? It's not possible. It is very difficult to be possible. Because your whole existence is a result of someone having premarital sex. How are you grasping that it's wrong? If it's wrong, then you shouldn't be here. Okay? So I'm saying is so we are victims to the environment that we've come up in. So oftentimes, even when we're trying to give good advice to our young people, our advice might be a little bit skewed or somewhat convoluted simply because of the environment we came up in, and what we think is right is not right, but is wrong. And so that's a tough one. Because that's what we're dealing with a lot of times, are the situations. And look around. Look around. I remember this was growing up, and this was a good friend of mine. His dad told us, "You don't ever let anybody beat you in a fight." He said, even if you have to hide behind a bush with a 2x4 and hit him in the back of the head with it, don't let anybody walk away talking about how they beat you in a fight. And that was my mantra. I received that, and so did my friend. And that was that right? In retrospect now, at this point in my life, I look back, I don't think it was right. So we teach our kids things. We teach our kids things because this is the best that we can do. So what I believe is true may not be true. And now I pass it on to my child who believes this is gospel truth and this is what they're living by. Man, this is a very difficult one. So self-examination is very important because we're living with all kinds of issues, baggage that we've inherited from the environments we've come up in. And it's one thing if you know that this is the baggage that you've inherited and you're trying to deal with it. But it's another thing if you think you're okay and you're not. Okay? And so we just have to be very careful. That's why I believe meditation is very, very important. Meditation. Yeah, meditation. It's not that far east, not necessarily far eastern, weirdness, religious, satanic, all this stuff, man. I remember years ago, I practiced the martial arts from the time I was a young teenager through about 10 years or so ago. And I joined many clubs, many type martial arts. And I remember I joined this one Japanese karate club when I was probably in my late 20s. And it was right around that time I became a Christian. And so then the next time I went to class and we were supposed to be meditating, I was sitting there, with everybody else with our legs crossed, and I'm sitting there trying to pray just to make sure I don't let any evil spirits get in my brain. Well, come on, man, this is kind of crazy. It was ridiculous. It was ignorance. All meditation is quiet time, thought time. Just to consider things, and which is what I believe we really need. Because I believe that all of the answers that are out there are deep within inside us, okay? Even if you've been raised in an environment, especially if you've been raised in an environment that was dysfunctional, we're all dysfunctional, but terribly dysfunctional. Truth is within you, or in your mind, in your psyche, as deep as it might be buried. There are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong. And we know it. I think we could probably bring it down to, when your fractions, we could probably reduce it all the way down to survival. The most basic human trait is survival. What happens when somebody tries to hold you underwater? Do you just acquiesce and say, oh, well, No, you're fighting. Or somebody tries to put a pillow over your head. Or when we used to have this game when we were kids, man, you'd have one little ball and you'd throw it in the air and you'd have like 15 kids. Somebody would try to grab it. Whoever grabbed it, everybody would jump on top of him and try to take the ball away. They'd get the ball away and then everybody would jump on him. We used to play games like that. But when you had that ball and you're on the bottom of a stack of like 10, 15 guys, at least for me, there was like a panic. There was like a claustrophobia type panic. And you're like fighting to get out of there, throwing punches and kicking, whatever it takes to get out of there. That's survival. That's like the most basic animal trait and in us as humans as well. And so when we're in a situation today that's not life and death, that survival can be sort of tweaked to represent happiness, peace, peace of mind and wellness. That's survival. And so these are the things that move us. This is the most basic trait that motivates us, is survival. It's peace of mind, it's satisfaction, which equals happiness. And this is what we want. This is what we desire. And so we find ourselves all through life chasing things that we believe will bring us this kind of satisfaction, whether it's as drastic as survival, maybe in a war situation, or just as simple as peace of mind, and maybe smoking this joint, or getting a little buzz here, or having this illicit affair, or maybe eating this kind of food constantly, because you enjoy the little feeling that you're getting while you're ingesting it. We find ourselves, or maybe the speed. I remember on the motorcycle, I used to pop that thing. It was like the wheelie and the speed. It was like a momentary high almost. So we try to satisfy this basic instinct in us for survival, wellness, peace of mind, happiness, satisfaction, and we find ourselves doing it in so many ways, again, based on the environment we've come up in and the influences that sort of molded our rationalizing process to make us think this will do it. Okay, what I'm suggesting today, we found with the tremendous unhappiness in our lives, the tremendous consequences that have come upon us because of a lot of the things that we did that we shouldn't have done and got jammed up for, we recognize that we've been going the wrong way too often. And what I'm suggesting today is deep inside, in that quiet place in the back of your mind, in the deepest part of the human recesses, there is truth. And if we are quiet, if we just find our quiet time, the reality of that truth will begin to manifest. I'm not saying it's a religious thing, but I am saying it's like a spiritual thing almost. Just the reality of right and wrong is deep within each of us. And sometimes it takes that quiet time to just begin to listen to that voice, that conscience, that voice that we have in each of us that's speaking to us, to don't do that, to do this. Or have you ever had a sort of a feeling or a moving when you're getting ready to do something and something inside just got a bad feeling about it? And then you don't do it, and something you realize your friends got jammed up who did do it? Or you went ahead and did it anyway, and then you had a terrible situation that transpired because of it. There's that voice within each of us that's like calling out. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's there. And what I'm suggesting today is a lot of the issues that we have, a lot of the confusion that we have, a lot of the inability to know which path to take and to know what to do. We wouldn't have some of these issues if we would just take some time out and meditate. And that's just quiet time. For me, it's like 6 in the morning when everybody's asleep in a nice quiet place. I have my own particular room, but I remember we had a guest some time ago, and I just sat in the living room. Everybody was asleep. Man, it's just quiet and peaceful. And thoughts begin to manifest. Thoughts begin to come to our mind. I forgot about this, or I didn't think that. I should have taken care of this. The answers are within you. But we find ourselves exposing ourselves to so much busyness, so much noise, always doing something, watching TV until we just can't keep our eyes open. Then we finally crash out, go to sleep, wake up in time to go to work, and start the process all over again. We have no quiet time. We don't get to hear that little voice that we have within us that's trying to give us some insight and some instruction. It's very important to meditate, because I think only through meditation and quiet time are we going to begin to find the reality of the paths that we should be on, based on the paths that we have been on because of, sort of the influences that we inherited from the homes and environments that we came up in. It's very important.